All right, we're now going to be doing a panel discussion with our chapter directors here. We've got a couple of prepared questions, and then at the end, you'll have a chance to ask your own. Okay. So I'll hand you the mic, and then y'all can do that. Okay. So we got our panel here. I'm just going to start with the first question, and gentlemen, I'll hand you the mic, and you just introduce yourself. This first question will be for everybody, and then after that, we'll only do maybe one or two people, okay, in the interest of time. Okay. So first, just introduce yourself, your chapter, and briefly what you did last semester. All right. So I'll start. So my name is Zachary. I'm the one of the directors at Texas A&M. And this past semester, we covered challenges to Scripture. So a lot of our topics were related to historical criticism and various challenges, including the canon, things like that. So we had our normal meetings on Thursdays, met for about an hour or so. After that, we do what's called the afterthought. Get it? Afterthought. And that's where we hang out, eat Chick-fil-A, continue the conversation, chat for a while, about 3 hours or so after the meeting. Something that we have tried recently that has worked really well has been 3 small groups that we host outside of the main meetings to integrate, create opportunities for different sort of subgroups within the chapter. So we have one group called the Forum, which is led by Julie. That's just a weekly get-together on Sunday. It's chill, there's snacks, and we talk about a paper or a video or something kind of like that, different topic each week. We have a group called Foundations, which is run by Landry over here. This is sort of an introduction to apologetics, people that want to learn the basics. And then we have another group called Frontiers, which is run by Michael, and this is for the exact opposite of Foundations. This is for the esoterica, the deep, hardcore stuff. So this past semester, we read Dale Allison's book on the resurrection of Jesus, which is a pretty intense biblical studies. So that's kind of what we've done. Regular meetings, standalone topics for an hour or so, open to the public. 3 small groups to promote our community. So,
fantastic. I'm Darren Williams. I'm at Sam Houston State University, and this past semester, where student ministry goes through cycles, and you have a sort of a flourishing phase, and then all your seniors graduate, and you're in a rebuilding phase. And so we're coming out of that rebuilding phase. We have a really great group of officers that are very motivated, and so that allowed us to table each week. So this is the first time we've done weekly tabling, and we've had really good success with that. Our officers also wanted the meetings to focus more on questions and have people discuss questions rather than a presentation of a topic. We still do present topics, but we're really trying to open up the floor more for questions and build relationships that way. But you need that spark plug officer or 2 or more, hopefully, to be the inviters, to be the evangelists, to be the plug, that spark plug that gets the chapter going. And so I'm lucky to have that this year, or blessed, I should say.
My name's Carl Schubert. I am the chapter director at Baylor University. What we did this semester, apart from weekly meetings, which covered an array of different topics, we didn't have a theme this semester, although our semesters rarely have themes. We also had several small groups too, one of which called Emmaus Road, which was led by Saul and Jenny, who are actually here today. They're over at that table. They covered typology of Jesus in the Old Testament, which was very cool. And we also had one called Theologos, which covered the Apostles' Creed just kind of as a foundational course for anyone who is interested. We also did a lot of tabling every week. I have a lot of sunburns to prove that. 6 hours every day. On Tuesday I was out there, and the students were out there for several hours each, although they kind of picked their schedule, but I was there all day. And then we had our keynote speaker, which came in and talked about how to do apologetics as well, kind of as an intro to the campus. So that's what we did, and then here you go, Shane.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shane. I'm the director at University of Houston, specifically the main campus, because there's like 20 University of Houstons, so I'm at the one that you think of. That's the one I'm at. Um, so does anyone know what God's Not Dead is? Not the movie, the other stuff. Yeah, yeah, okay. So you have the movie, but you also have a book, and you have sort of this campus touring thing like Frank Turek does. And so what we did last semester is somehow with our team of like 3, including students, like we're tiny, we were able to get God's Not Dead, the seminar, to campus on their touring cycle, and we also did our main like large group meeting kind of thing. We did the God's Not Dead chapters in that book, and that was our topics, that was our lectures. We also did tabling because we have students who are willing to show up, and so we did that multiple times a week, and it was fun. We had some new connections. That's kind of something I think we do well, is we meet a lot of new people, whether they come back or not. But yeah.
Cool. Hi, my name's Bob Zeinstra, and I'm the director at University of North Texas. And we got Jacob Bradshaw is one of our officers, and Danny and Rebecca are very active in leading our chapter. And I'll explain what we do next. Every Monday at 6:30, we have a topic, and we usually present for 45 to 60 minutes. Then have 30 to 45 minutes of Q&A and engagement. And then we have time afterwards. It usually goes for an hour for students to just kind of socialize together, have some food, discuss the topic. So that's our weekly schedule. The most important thing that we do, though, is tabling. And Rebecca leads that for us. And so we have a consistent 2 tables a week for 2 hours each in the student union. And UNT has 47,000 students, and about 2/3 of them are commuters, so there's a lot of activity in the union. And, it's the most important thing we do without a doubt, because A, it's outreach, duh. B, it allows our students to practice what they learn, right, in the weekly sessions and develop their own skills. And 3, it allows us to promote, because we tie in the question of the day to the topic that's coming up, which is obvious. I'm sure everybody does that. But it's the most important thing we do. I would say it's our big success thus far this year. Our first semester in the calendar, in the academic calendar, is about fundamentals. So we did the 3, I think the 3 most famous arguments for the existence, the cosmos, design, and morality, and evidence for Christ's resurrection. So we make sure we get those in, and then we put some other topics in. We did an undergraduate debate on a narrow piece of evolution, information within evolution. Actually, Jacob was on the Christian side of that, but we had one of our regular attenders who is a Norse pagan who took the other side, so that had a lot of attendees. So yeah, we had a great semester, and look forward to talking to you more.
It's sad to say, because of Ratio Christi International, I was out for a chunk of our semester just tying up loose ends. So, but what was cool about that, so we had about 12 meetings, and I was not there for 4 of them, which for a semester, that's a big chunk. So one of the things I've repented of is no longer scheduling trips during the semester so I can be there on campus, save all of it for breaks. So, but what was cool about that is I told, like, I could see it on my calendar, and I warned my students, like, this is coming, and my co-leaders, my assistant chapter directors, and they said, we've got you. And so student-led Bible studies, prayer meetings, and things started springing up, and you could just tell that God was really working in those things. It was so cool to walk around the corner in School of Christian Thought. I'm sure a lot of our RC people hang out, and there was a prayer meeting so large one day that I couldn't get through. Like there's just so many of our students over there praying, and I really think that like that prayer emphasis is so, so important for any mission that you're doing. And I'm so glad to see many of our students. We tried to do our prayer meetings on Sunday night, and it was just so low attended. You know, I told our students we really need to have this in the middle of the week sometime, as inconvenient as that might sound. So they all got together. Somebody took initiative, and they got a prayer meeting together. And it's the most heavily attended prayer meetings we've had, and it's really cool. And it helped bring more of the reality of God into our ministry, I think. We also obviously took like a more unashamed cultural stance, you know, and many of our students really responded well to that, and they feel like they're part of like something that could actually affect change. And I think that's very, very important for us. And we like to bring in a guest lecturer. We brought in Joseph Pierce this year. We do a special thing on campus called Ratio Christi Presents, which sadly like crossed over the same night that Shane was doing his thing. And I wanted to go to that so bad. But he came in and talked about G.K. Chesterton. He wrote a huge biography of Chesterton and kind of had an Inklings emphasis last semester, and that was part of that. So, which is like C.S. Lewis, Owen Barfield, Tolkien, Chesterton, you know, the Brit. I call it like the early 20th century British apologists. Like that's the easiest way to explain that. So yeah, it's so yeah. And are there things we could do better? Always. There's always something we could do better. Certainly not a perfect chapter. But you know, the Lord's. It's just good to know, like John Wesley used to say, "Best of all, God is with us." So, yeah.
Cool. All right, next question here. We'll just do first two people that snap it up. What's been the biggest challenge for your chapter this past semester? You want to do Darren?
Okay.
Here you can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think our biggest challenge is kind of related to the tabling and the, let's see, biggest challenge. Okay. Yeah, so kind of related to the tabling, we'll get attendees once. And so trying to retain those attendees, there are several conversions that we want. We want, obviously, to convert folks who aren't believers to believers in Jesus Christ. We also want to convert these attendees to members, and those members to, you know, shore them up and be convert them into evangelists that teach and make disciples. But that first step of getting a one-time attendee welcomed, make them feel like they have a place and that they're encouraged there and that they'll be missed if they're not there. So that's just hard, and I'm not necessarily good at it. I'm realizing by the evidence that that's a struggle that I have.
So I think our biggest struggle this past semester, which I think Baylor might have a unique struggle. I don't know. You guys can tell me for yourself, but our biggest problem, even with the New Atheist movement 10 years ago, really wasn't New Atheists. The biggest problem at our campus is what I think many others have coined apatheism. Our biggest problem is not just other people who don't believe in Christianity, but Christians who hear about the questions, life's greatest questions, hear about answers to life's greatest questions, and they go, so what? Why do I care? I think our biggest issue is we'll be tabling about we'll be tabling about abortion, and you know, we will have people who will claim to be very devout Christians who will say, what does it matter if one of my non-Christian friends gets an abortion? I'm not going to get one myself. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it, but what does it matter if they do it? I feel like to some degree, when Bill was presenting just a few minutes ago, I felt a conviction because our campus is one of those places that I feel like the fire has died. Baylor is a Christian university in name, but in many respects, it doesn't have the fire to do what the gospel tells us to. And I think that is our biggest struggle, is getting people, including sometimes ourselves, to really have that fire to push forward. because we're lulled into this complacency. Well, we're in a Christian university. These people are Christians. They're fine. We don't have to convert them. They go to church on Sundays and all these things. But the gospel isn't happy with us going to church on Sundays. The gospel demands a complete transformation of your life. Total. It touches everything. It doesn't matter if you just show up one day a week. God didn't ask for one day a week. I mean, did Jesus die for one day a week? If that's all he died for, then our religion is pitiful. And I think reigniting that spark is probably our biggest challenge. And getting people convicted about that. And honestly, I sat here listening to Bill's presentation, and I felt convicted that I haven't been pushing that as hard as I should have. And maybe the rest of you felt the same way. But that's our biggest challenge, and maybe that's not unique to us as well.
Any of you three? Okay, we'll do Bill.
That's not unique.
Just echoing, like, we're in a similar situation. My Eastern Kentucky term for it is they're at HCU, they're Christian to death. They have to go to chapel. They have all these sealed, they call them, can you imagine this? Our university hands out what they call CLW credits, and you have to have X number amount of credits in order to graduate. So they have to have 30 Christian Life and Worship B credits. That's what that stands for, CLWB. So they get a CLWB credit to come to Ratio Christi, which is helpful. But at the same time, what these students see there is they're not seeing grace, they're seeing law. Yeah. They're like, if I don't do this, I'm not going to graduate. So I guess I just have to go to something. So yeah, what a difficult, but North Texas, I know about North Texas. I'm a jazz musician. That's the place. Man, that place is a totally different ball game. So I would like to hear what North Texas.
Yeah. Well, in terms of challenge, our potential at UNT is unlimited. It's just organizing ourselves and having a consistent, I come from the business world, having consistent human resources and policy and structure and processes. And so we've been around 4.5 years. So we're still young in that regard. And between, Jacob and the rest of the 4 officers, we have a total of 5 officers, and Danny and Rebecca with their great experience, and I got a lot of ideas. We have more ideas than we can manage right now. So my biggest challenge is, well, I just retired, so now I can put more time into it. But in addition, I need more consistent help, like ACD help. So that's where I'm focused. Gotcha. And and I have one person who's going to apply for ACD this week. So once we get that going.
Can you explain ACD for those that don't
know? Assistant chapter director. They could be OCD, which would be fine. But the ACD, working under chapter director, it's a great combination. And the ACD, application process can still, it's less heavy in terms of your apologetics knowledge, but you can still be a supported missionary as well. And so that's the combination we're going after. Yeah, so that's our biggest challenge, and once we get that, then we can add on so many other things and take advantage of that opportunity.
Can I ask him a follow-up question, Zach?
Well, first, let me do a quick shill for this afternoon. We have a workshop. You mentioned operations. One of the workshops led by Landry is going to be on specifically identifying your chapter operations, putting them into a manual, automating it, and those types of things. So for operations issues, if that's something that you'd like a little guidance on, we'll be working on that this afternoon. Cool. Okay, go ahead, Bill, please.
What are your cultural challenges at UNT? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, every question that was asked in David's earlier session is something we hear every week. So it's so broad. We have, interestingly enough, we've had a lot of Norse pagans, atheists. Well, they call themselves theists, attend our sessions. And so we've been dealing head on with that that pantheistic sort of religious idea. And honestly, it was a curveball. I wish they just went away in the bad side of me, right? But then I saw it as a blessing, and we've all learned from it. Now, only one is consistently coming, so culturally, that's an influence that has been with us and has kind of shocked us a bit. One time we asked them to come up on the stage and explain to us what is Norse paganism, who are your gods, why do you believe in them? And we were flabbergasted. But as we walk around the campus, I mean, we have every group you can imagine, from the Secular Student Alliance to the LGBTQIA++ groups. It's a potpourri, but this Norse paganism one has been the one that's been dropped in our lap. Yeah. So
Cool. All right, we'll start with Shane if you want. You can punt the next question here. How do you approach or maintain the spiritual health both of your chapter, your students, and yourself?
I'm seeing if I wrote this down.
Okay. It's
If I didn't,
questions-
I'll answer it anyways. It's okay.
It's question 9 and 10.
I see. That's not the question 9 and 10 I had. All right, so what's the question again?
Approaching spiritual health, how do you keep yourself spiritually healthy, and then what are you doing with your students to kind of meet that need?
Yes. Okay. So for me, I don't really want to give the normal answer, which is like, yeah, like I go to church, I have a mentor, and I do all the things. Because I think that would be sort of irresponsible, a cliche maybe. So for me, it does, weirdly enough, it comes down to routine. That maybe not routine, but discipline, I suppose, discipline. Waking up early, praying first thing in the mornings, things like this, like very simple things. Because I find that the simple things add up and they influence the larger things. And so I've been paying attention to those a bit more recently. And as for my students, I am trying to at least institute, it's not fully there yet, but I'm trying to institute spiritual direction, which maybe some of you've heard of before. I think it's sort of going around in certain seminaries and similar groups to seminaries. Spiritual direction's sort of this like one-on-one mentoring kind of thing, but the mentor will ask questions of the mentee, and that's about all they do. And it's interesting because you get to see some things about yourself that you may not have known were even in there. And I had this done with me, introduced to me when I was in university, and I didn't know what it was. And so now I know what it is, and I'm gonna try and replicate that. Yeah.
Cool. Carl, Darren, you want to take this one?
Sure, I think this is some area that I need to work on for sure. I meet with the officers separately from our regular meeting once a week. I try to, and we are really using the framework of the Legatus Christi in terms of their apologetics development and discipleship, trying to work towards the competencies in those areas. I think it's a wonderful document. If you look at it online, you can see those competencies, and it's a great target to aim at.
Can you quickly explain Legatus Christi?
Legatus Christi is Latin for ambassador for Christ, and it's a program of Ratio Christi, and I would encourage you to go to Google and type in Ratio Christi and Legatus Christi, and you'll go right to the page. That way you don't have to worry about telling somebody the navigation. Google will find it for you. And look at those, I say competencies, they're aspirational abilities of an ambassador for Christ. And I think that would be a great development goal for all of our officers to have that as something they want to live up to, and not just something they achieve and put it on their resume, but to live up to the rest of their life, because it's just marvelous. But I really love what you said, the little things affect the big things. And we need to, I'm convicted, we need to do more prayer and more spiritual development as a group in our club and individually. So I think that's something that I'm going to take from this.
Any of the students or former students, do any of you have a Legatus Christi? Show of hands. At least one?
Yeah.
Cool. I have one. I'm raising my hand.
Great. Yeah, that's good. Cool. We've had about 3 or 4 from our chapter. I'm very excited, though. Many of our past chapter officers are now professors at universities. And so I'm really glad to see that sort of multiplicative effect. Even though we don't have a RC Prof chapter, I love that program, but we're sort of getting there the long way. And our graduates are going to graduate school and then going on, many of them becoming faculty at various universities. So that's exciting.
All right, one quick note, the coffee will close in about 15 minutes. So if you want to get something, now would be the time to do that. One more question for the panel, and then we'll kick it to the audience. So what resources have been the most helpful for your topic research? And if you use anything from Ratio Christi, like the booklets or the Novum series or anything like that, discuss that as well. I can start, because it looks like Shane needs to think.
No,
Yeah.
I just have a really dumb answer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let's hear it.
YouTube.
Nice.
Good stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, there
I can
is.
point you to a
Do you use the Ratio Christi at Texas A&M YouTube, which can be found by searching YouTube Ratio Christi Texas A&M?
I have before.
You use the Ratio Christi Texas A&M YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, wow.
I've watched one of your, not you.
Oh, one. Okay. Nice.
Hey, along with that, Shane, what about the truth conversation? That's a good podcast.
And Bill. I'm
Wait, do you mean the Truth Conversation with Bill Scott on YouTube.com?
We are dropping the Bill Scott off of it here in about a couple of weeks.
Oh,
It's just gonna
okay.
be the truth conversation. And you can look for a website here shortly.
Yes. Yes. I am subscribed on YouTube to the Truth Conversation and to Ratio Christi at
I'm
Texas
sure
A&M.
you find that helpful. It's
Yes.
a pretty good channel. This has gone on way too long. Maybe I should subscribe to the A&M channel as well.
Yeah.
Glad to-
Rob, you were gonna.
Yeah, I just want to plug the booklets. I just think that is a wonderful resource for us. It gives us legitimacy. It builds our brand. It's a handout for tabling. I send the digital copy after each presentation. And last year, I haven't done it yet this year, but last year I actually modeled 2 or 3 presentations right on the booklet. I just followed the outline, and then we had some Q&A, and then it's hand the booklets out. So I think we need one on transhumanism, David. So they're great. Just keep them coming. Got to reduce the price just a little bit, but maybe a bulk order or something, we could get them for less than $1. And we're using them at our church now as well. I'm teaching a parenting class, and the parents need this resource as well for their young kids. So keep that coming. Put resources into that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
On the booklets, what I love about those booklets is they provide kind of a baseline of like, here's what Ratio Christi believes. So it's like that really does provide a statement of beliefs for us. And overseas, especially, when they see our booklet ministry, they're like, wow. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen our authors and things that have done these things. We have people from William Lane Craig, J.P. Moreland. I mean, all these people that, Neil Shenvey did one on critical theory. He just did a webinar for us last week, to follow up on that. So yeah, it's those booklets are great, and it's sad to say that RCHCU does not use them as much as we should, but come next year, that's going to be the push. Yeah, highly endorse these booklets.
Cool. All right, let's transition to audience Q&A. Did you have something to add, Carl?
Oh, yeah. So on top of the booklets, and this is a resource that I've been using pretty extensively now just for my own personal free education is biblicaltraining.com. So great website, 10 out of 10. So biblical training, it is run by Bill Mounts, which happened to be one of our speakers a couple years ago at Baylor. It's all free. They are free college level courses taught by, leading theologians and all these folks. Like I'm taking a church history class for free from Gerald Bray, which is great. You can also there's like a 24-part apologetics course taught by Sean McDowell on there that is absolutely free and anyone can access it. And the Sean McDowell course is specifically designed to, be like entry level, like you're a college student, you're trying to figure things out. So and he's got like a bajillion topics on that. They've got Craig Blomberg, they've got like everybody. So if you're looking to like get more in-depth education and you don't want to spend a ton to get a degree, and maybe you just need to touch up on a specific subject, I highly recommend them. But yeah, no, they're really good. I've also been using a lot of diagrams from Wes Huff. Wes Huff. So some of y'all might have known him from the Billy Carson debate, which just blew up. But he actually makes wonderful graphics, and that's what I knew him from before he blew up. Was he makes a lot of graphics, particularly about manuscripts, biblical archaeology, and stuff like that, which I was a history major in college, and so that's just my little guilty pleasure is to nerd out about that stuff. So I've been using his graphics just for my own personal education for years now. So his name's Wes Huff. He is the director of Apologetics Canada. So yeah.
So on that, all the handouts and presentations for today are at this link, TexAg RCTX25, or at that QR code. We'll include in there a list of everything we just mentioned and probably some more. The biblicaltraining.org, Wes Huff, YouTube, specifically the Truth Conversation with Bill Scott. And Ratio Christi at Texas A&M. And yeah, there's a lot that we'll include up there. Okay.
I would add STR.
STR, yeah. We'll include a list, and of course you can talk to us at lunch. But let's go to the audience. Caleb will bring you a microphone. All right, let's start with Blackman. Go ahead. And yeah.
I think I missed the first part of the panel discussion. Are the answers given? Have those been to these questions? Have they been typed up?
Oh.
On that document?
No, but we can.
Okay.
Good.
I got that impression from someone else, but okay. I think that could be helpful if
Sure.
like everyone was asked the same questions and then like maybe typed up their answers, especially if they didn't have time to speak.
Good suggestion. All right. Anybody else?
Thank you. I had a thought about engaging something like the neo-pagan community. Paganism's been around a long time, which means that there have been apologists who've been debating pagan since like the Roman Empire. So maybe a possible resource down the line as we're dealing with more of these cultural trends is to look at these older ancient arguments from the late Roman Empire, the early medieval era, and see how they engage their pagans. Because even though our pagans aren't exactly the same, there's got to be similarities there that could be useful for our chapters down the line.
Yeah, I've actually been starting to look into this. So I haven't come to a conclusion for all of them, but I started looking through church history because I was like, well, I'm a history guy, and so I'm like, there's got to be an answer in here somewhere. There actually is quite a lot, and I haven't even begun to parcel through even the first example that I thought to go for, which was Boniface. and his mission to the Germans in the early medieval era. Because he actually dealt directly with the Norse pagans. That was his issue, was with Germanic deities, which he dealt with Donner, which is just the Germanic iteration of Thor. And I'm planning to include this in a presentation this semester that I'm going to give. But I think we can look at that. We can also look at biblical examples of how did God deal with rival gods, and how did God's prophets deal with rival gods. And so when I looked at church history, at the several examples that I've seen, whether it be from Eusebius, whether it be from Boniface, whether it be from G.K. Chesterton, whatever, I found a pattern of univocity. There's a united, tone that is given towards this issue. And if it worked for 2,000 years, I can't imagine that it wouldn't work now. So I don't have a exhaustive thesis on that, but I've started looking into it, and there is something there, and I would encourage, if that's a problem on your campus, maybe y'all should start researching it too.
Did you find anything from St. Patrick on the pagan deities in Ireland?
I haven't specifically researched Patrick and the pagan deities with Ireland for this question, although I do have relative familiarity with the subject because I had to take a course as part of a study abroad in undergrad where I had to learn about Celtic spirituality, which included Celtic Christianity, but it also included Celtic paganism. And oftentimes those two overlapped a little more than was comfortable for me. So I can maybe talk about that more, but I'll keep my answers succinct. There is quite a bit there, and I think more often than not, the warning of Celtic Christianity with dealing with pagans is not necessarily how to do something, but how not to do something in a lot of ways. I think Patrick did some great stuff, but I think his successors often fell into a problem of syncretism more often than not.
I need Donald and Connell.
Yeah, question back there.
I think you're right on, because I'm familiar with some work by early church fathers, and one of the ways that they dealt with the Greek gods was to show that these were actually previous kings, living persons who had died and were venerated and then became gods, were deified centuries later, but that some of them, their graves were still available. You could still go to the tomb of Hercules,
Yeah.
right, and see that he was not a god, he just was this mighty man, this king, this warrior.
Yeah.
And then stories built up against him. There's a very similar work been done. It's in a book called After the Flood. And in a section of that book, there's an analysis of the Norse royal genealogies. You're nodding your head. I don't know if you're already familiar with this then. The
Vaguely,
royal
yeah.
genealogies, so that Odin and Thor, these names are in these ancient genealogies as being living persons who were actually in the descendant line of the kings. And so these were royal genealogies that were preserved for centuries because of the importance of the fact that they were royal genealogies. Yeah. And there are their names, and these were just persons who later became deified through storytelling and things as these great men who became, and now they're gods.
Yeah.
So that something might be helpful for you.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. Another part of it is the other thing that I've found with dealing with pagan gods in both scripture and in church history is if they don't try and prove that they were people, they prove that God has somehow overcome, defeated, or sometimes killed them. Eusebius is one of those who writes about that with how Pan is dead, and Pan being the Greek god for nature, but Eusebius then takes that as a rhetorical thing. Pan in Greek also means all. And so Eusebius says, Christ didn't just defeat Pan, he defeated Pan, all of them. Christ is victorious over all of them. And that tone is shared throughout a lot of evangelistic efforts. Christ has overcome these, and therefore, if we have a God who is stronger than these gods, why would you devote yourself to the weaker?
That's a different culture, yeah. Power versus legalism.
Yeah.
Yes, back there.
This is just a quick comment, but I think because all of us have studied quite a bit, that sometimes it's easy to focus too much on the intellectual aspect. And if the kids have sat through lectures all day long, they are not really highly motivated to come and sit through another lecture. And I think one of the, up in Colorado, I know there's a chapter that does all kind of things. They have a karaoke, they have a weekly dinner together, they do fun stuff. And I think if we can make our meetings a little bit more fun, one of the things that we've tried at TWU is just starting with a minute mystery, to get everybody thinking and laughing. And also on the spiritual aspect, it's easy sometimes, I think, to start with, let's get a meeting going, and then we'll try to disciple them. One of the things that maybe because of my crew background is a tendency, if we put more emphasis on actually spiritually discipling them, then I think they will have that inner motivation to come to the meetings. So we just started at TWU this semester, but I was able to meet girls through tabling that for the entire past semester, they've been coming to a Bible study, and we've been doing discipling. So now that we've started this semester, they are 100% on board and excited, just because spiritually they are at the point they are ready to go out and start sharing. And even with the follow-up, I got a text yesterday from one of the girls, and she said, I just texted each of the first-time visitors to invite them back. And I think that horizontal relationship of, if the students are contacting the students who come, trying to build relationships, that's going to be more productive in getting them back than just saying, we're glad you came, hope you come back again.
Fantastic. All right, we're right at noon, so I'll ask one last question here, which is, where do you see your chapter in 5 years and then in 10 years? We'll just pick two.
Okay.
Jump ball, whoever gets it.
Yeah, I think I see it in 5 years flourishing under a new director that I'm praying for. Yeah, because I'm trying to recruit somebody that will be there after I retire from the university, and I've got a couple of prospects. Pray for them because they're praying, and our path to them is through God, right? And so also a different character to the chapter, more personal, like you're saying. I'm really convicted by that because that's the thing I've struggled with. So that's wonderful. 10 years, a beacon, a city on the hill for Ratio Christi nationally and internationally, with a thriving RC Prof group and several RC Prep high school groups in many churches in our town. So I think that would be awesome in 10 years. Huntsville is a very open to Ratio Christi community. Our campus is a state school, but it's very religious and a lot of Christian groups, but they're so siloed. And so I think our ministry is unique in that we're not trying to build another silo. We're working so well across all the different groups, and we have an evangelistic focus, and we have an equipping focus. And I really want to see that flourish.
Next, anybody? Jump ball.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, just very quickly. I can sort of add to that because, yeah, we have half of us are in Houston. More than, I mean, if you add a few others. But, yeah, I just echo that. I think University of Houston is particularly positioned because of, partially just because of the students. So we have a lot of international students, and they're from everywhere, from every country. And that's kind of a microcosm of Houston, and it's kind of a microcosm of the United States. And so if what Bill's talking about, if the university is sort of this starting point and then it goes everywhere else, well then if what Darren was talking about is the starting point, well, then you can imagine the effects of that, not just here, but also internationally. And so I think that the Houston chapters in general, not just University of Houston, but the Houston chapters in general, I think can sort of collaboratively have that that vision. Yeah.
I would say that right now, like, we're very like successful on the surface kind of chapter, but working in our chapter, like, there's still a lot of, like, I was very excited to hear there's like an organizational meeting, just things like that. Like, I'm a visionary leader, and so my weakness is like nuts and bolts, and I've always acknowledged that. And so what I'd like to see in 5 years is that we just have this program in place that just keeps taking care of itself. Like, it's getting to that point now, but it's taken us 4 years to get where we are now. I would say it's going to take another couple of years to get that into a system and have that ironed out. That's very hard. We started with 4 people at HCU, and then during COVID, and then fall 2021, we were blessed with 40 people. And ever since then, we've been kind of like managing that. And I would like to do more than manage that. I would like to see in 5 years that this is something that like students can just plug into. And we're already starting to see this, but just like across the board, this is exactly what I do. I'm president. So this is what presidents do, you know. And then we had a first vision for Ratio Christi at HCU was when I looked around our school, and like Shane said, we're a very multi-ethnic area. The mission field is right there. I mean, it's just, we have 15% Muslim population at Houston Christian University, you know. So using that as a training field for our students, and hopefully sending our students into these foreign fields to help with these things as apologists. And then also making HCU a training ground for other missionaries, so they can come from Kenya, for example, and spend a year or 2 with us and do a degree at HCU and train with us and then go back. So I feel like the whole systems thing, it just has to be, it needs to be in place to do that. So yeah, that's the 10 years, I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Okay. You have anything?
Want me to go, or do you?
Oh, well, you're standing between the people and their food, so.
Let's let the people have their
Okay.
food. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so Julie can give some instructions for lunch. I will add one instruction. You have at least one task over lunch. You have to talk to a new person and make a new friend. This is extraordinarily difficult, okay? All right. Julie, go ahead.